Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive, universal headache in modern web development, front-end bloat. We're going to dive into how Alpine.js can completely streamline your interactive web design, giving you those snappy, dynamic UIs your users demand, but doing it without the crushing JavaScript payloads and endless build steps that we've kind of just accepted as the industry standard.
Okay, let's quickly glance at our roadmap for today. We're starting with the UI complexity trap, then we'll introduce Alpine.js, look at exactly how it works under the hood, run through the developer advantages, explore some ideal use cases, and finally, get real about its limits.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the UI complexity trap.
Can interactive UIs actually be simple? Honestly, this is the ultimate question if you're suffering from framework fatigue. We've literally reached a point where spinning up a massive local environment, downloading gigs of dependencies into a node_modules folder, and wrestling with state management just to make a drop-down menu toggle, it just feels completely disproportionate, right? For years, the industry standard has sort of shoved us toward building everything as a single-page application, regardless of what we're actually building. Now, interactivity is non-negotiable. Modern users absolutely expect fluid interfaces. But the overhead? That shouldn't be. When your foundational setup requires hours of configuration before you can write a single line of business logic, well, the architecture has totally eclipsed the actual problem you're trying to solve.
We're essentially caught in this David and Goliath scenario when architecting our front ends. On one side, you've got the heavyweights, React, Angular, Vue, and hey, they're incredibly robust, enterprise-grade tools. But to use them, you're accepting a steep learning curve, a virtual DOM, complex build pipelines, and a heavy performance tax paid by the client's browser during hydration. You're fundamentally changing how you construct the web page by essentially rendering HTML entirely through JavaScript. But then, on the other side, we have Alpine.js. It's a minimalist, nimble alternative. It gives you the exact same dynamic interactivity, but totally drops the massive complexity. It embraces the DOM instead of fighting it, operating directly on your markup without needing a virtual representation in memory. This drastically reduces the cognitive load on you, the developer, and the computational load on the browser.
Which perfectly tees up Section 2, enter Alpine.js.
Check this out. Alpine boasts a footprint of just 10 kilobytes zipped. For front-end developers fighting for every single millisecond of page speed, this is an absolute game changer. And it's not just about saving network bandwidth. It's fundamentally about execution speed. There's no complex build process required, no Webpack config to maintain, and no massive bundle being sent over the wire. Crucially, especially for mobile users on constrained networks or older devices, there is almost zero JavaScript parsing time. You literally just drop it into your document via a simple CDN script tag, meaning your time to interactive is practically instantaneous. While a monolithic framework is still busy downloading, compiling, and hydrating the DOM tree, Alpine is already initialized and is perfectly ready to respond to user input.
There's a great quote that captures its whole underlying philosophy. Alpine.js is a minimalist JavaScript framework designed to enhance HTML with declarative attributes. Instead of constantly context switching between your markup files and completely separate JavaScript files, Alpine brings the logic directly to the DOM exactly where it belongs. It builds on the standard HTML you already know, rather than forcing you to learn a completely new proprietary syntax or templating language. You aren't writing separate scripts to select elements and attach event listeners. You're just augmenting the structural code you already wrote. It's heavily inspired by larger frameworks like Vue, but strips away all the build steps to focus purely on developer ergonomics and purest simplicity.
All right, moving on to Section 3, how Alpine.js actually works.
The key here is declarative syntax. This basically means you define your UI behavior directly inside your HTML, using special custom attributes called directives. Say you want a specific div element to show or hide when a user clicks a button. You don't go write an event listener in a separate JS file that queries the DOM. No, you simply add an xShow attribute directly to that element. Your application state and your layout markup just sit side by side. This principle, known as locality of behavior, makes your codebase incredibly transparent. Anyone can open a template file, read the HTML tags, and immediately understand exactly how that interface will behave without ever having to trace functions back to some distant JavaScript file.
Alongside that declarative approach, Alpine uses a remarkably approachable, lightweight, component-based architecture. You define a component scope just by declaring an xData attribute on any parent HTML element. Boom! Everything nested inside that element now instantly has access to that localized state object. There's absolutely no need to import components, deal with complex state management libraries like Redux, or worry about tedious prop drilling just to pass data down the tree. It scales down beautifully. You can build a fully functional state-driven component, like a custom modal or an interactive accordion, using just a few lines of standard HTML augmented with Alpine directives, all without writing a single external script.
But the real magic holding this entire system together is reactive data binding. When a variable inside your localized xData object changes, maybe because a user clicked a button or typed into an input field, Alpine surgically updates only the DOM elements bound to that specific piece of data. Your interface stays perfectly synced with your state model automatically. This completely eliminates the need to ever write manual DOM manipulation code using old-school methods like document.getElementById or query selector. You just update the underlying data state, and Alpine's reactivity engine instantly takes care of reflecting that new state accurately across your UI. It saves countless lines of boilerplate and pretty much eliminates a whole category of human error.
Let's look at Section 4, the developer advantages.
There are 4 massive benefits here that will fundamentally change your daily development workflow. First up, because this syntax heavily leverages what you already know about HTML, the learning curve is practically non-existent. A dev team can literally read the official docs and be productive with Alpine in a single afternoon. Second, that minimal 10 kilobyte footprint drives exceptionally high performance efficiency, drastically improving your core web vitals and overall page load speeds. Third, because it operates entirely within the standard DOM without a build step, you get truly seamless integration. You can easily sprinkle it into a legacy jQuery project or embed it deep within a server-rendered app without breaking any existing code. And finally, despite its tiny size, it is highly flexible. Through custom events and specialized directives, it is more than capable of handling sophisticated client-side logic when your project really needs it.
So where does this really shine? Section 5, Ideal Use Cases.
When you're building everyday UI interactions, think modals, tabbed interfaces, custom dropdowns. Alpine provides an incredibly elegant solution requiring minimal readable code. For rapid prototyping, it's just invaluable. Designers and developers can test logic, build out state, and iterate right in the browser instantly, with no local dev server required. It is also an absolute game changer for working within monolithic content management systems like Laravel, Django, or WordPress. You can add rich, modern interactive to those front ends without touching your back-end build steps or rewriting the routing layer. But perhaps most importantly, it's the ultimate tool for progressive enhancement on server-rendered pages. You can ship your fully functional static HTML first, ensuring maximum SEO and accessibility, and then just seamlessly inject dynamic behavior on top of it for a much richer user experience.
But we need to be realistic. Section 6, Knowing its limits.
Alpine is incredibly powerful, for sure, but it is not a silver bullet, and you have to acknowledge its ecosystem limitations. It is a focused tool. It doesn't have the vast, sprawling ocean of third-party plugins, dedicated testing libraries, or pre-built enterprise UI kits that an ecosystem like React enjoys. If you need a highly specific, complex data grid component right out of the box, you're probably building it yourself. Secondly, it's simply not designed for massive scale. If you're architecting a sprawling single-page application that needs intricate client-side routing, complex global state management across dozens of disparate views, and heavy data fetching coordination, Alpine's declarative markup will quickly become disorganized and really tough to maintain. For true enterprise-level SPA architectures, those heavyweight frameworks are definitely still the right tool for the job.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to consider for your next big project. Do you really need to construct a heavyweight factory, or do you just need a light touch? Alpine.js proves that delivering a premium, highly interactive user experience doesn't mean sacrificing simplicity, developer ergonomics, or raw execution speed. So, next time you automatically reach for a massive, complex framework just to toggle a mobile menu or validate a simple form, step back. Ask yourself if there's a lighter, faster path available. Thanks for hanging out for this one. Keep building, keep experimenting, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.